Welcome to B.Y.O.Logues, where youth advocates sit down and have a conversation about the facts, topics, and all things community. We are here with Beyond Youth Organizing Youth Advocates. Would you all take a chance to introduce yourselves? Your name, your grade, what school you go to?
Hi, I'm Micheal. I'm in 11th grade and I go to Holly.
My name is Zion. I'm in the 11th grade and I go to BSF.
My name is Will and I go to Maryville and I'm in 9th grade.
My name is Denim. I'm in the 12th grade and I attend Pikesville High School.
And my name is Christen Kelly. I'm the youth coordinator for BIO, and today we will dive into a deep conversation about the failings of the school system and our views on that topic. So, the first question will be, well, as y'all are current students in Baltimore City and County in city schools, yes, how does it feel? Like, how has the school system failed you all? How do you feel like the school system has failed you? Denim, do you want to go first?
Yes, so recently there has been an audio recording that has surfaced in the media, news, now worldwide. And it's a audio recording of my principal making derogatory remarks about the student body as well as faculty. And I believe that right now is the strongest example for how the school system is failing us. The situation is incredibly disheartening, and no amount of words can amount to the frustration and the disgust that I feel right now with what's going on.
Yeah, so I also heard about that. You sent it to me actually, and when I saw it, I felt the same way you did, because it wouldn't make sense for a principal, or shouldn't make sense for a principal to speak like that on students you're trying to bring up, especially in this city or county, because Pikesville is county school. So in Baltimore in general, just you're supposed to uplift the kids, make sure they feel welcome, make sure they feel like they have the support they need. And as a principal, it was disappointing and disheartening for me too to hear it. So how did you guys feel about when you heard about that stuff?
It's horrible, really, how a principal of a person's school, your school, can talk bad about the students that they have there and the faculty when they're supposed to be helping keep that school running and actively improve it.
Yeah, so what exactly was said, like, in the video? Because
yes, so in the audio recording, he said, I'm the principal here, me and only me. So he, initially at the beginning of the recording, he is just like, I'm the boss here, I'm in power, I'm in charge. So I think that was just enough right there, because it's like, okay, like there's so many staff and faculty that help Pikesville High run and keep us safe. So that I was just like, okay. And then later on in the clip, in the audio recording, he goes on and he's like, between these ungrateful Black kids who can't test their way out of a paper bag. And I was like, what? Like, I was like so confused because I didn't know like what he was talking about. I'm like, okay, like a paper bag. Like I'm thinking about the history of like brown paper bag tests and how they were used, by sororities, as a form of like colorism. Well, that is an example of colorism, disregarding like the inclusivity of textures and not textures, but skin complexions and so forth. But when he said like, and then I looked it up and it says that like saying that a person can't test their way out of a paper bag is basically saying that they are incompetent. They're unintelligent. They don't have the fundamental tools or skills to learn. So I was just incredibly disappointed. And then he said that he was going to drag our athletic director out of the school. Specifically, he said, I'm going to drag DJ's Black ASS out of the school. And he also said that he was tired of the Jewish community complaining. And I'm just like, this is ridiculous. Like, you're attacking everybody at this point. Like, do you like anyone?
Yeah. Well, I see you with your faces. What you thinking right now?
I don't think he should have said that like that. Takes out the paper bags. Like, I feel like that. I don't know about that. He was calling like everybody in school unintelligent. He was saying like he has the power. You didn't shoot a principal. Like, you're not the only one around here that like does things to make changes inside school.
Ryan? Mm-hmm.
I mean, I feel like if anything, he's lower since he wants to talk about power and things like that. Taking out his rage in that manner, it just puts him lower than everybody else in the building. So.
Anything else that anyone else want to add?
I personally agree with Zion about what he said, because what kind of power is that principal trying to sort of flex? I mean, you're a person who runs a building that's supposed to educate our future generations. You shouldn't be saying that you have power over them. You should be saying that, okay, so I have the ability to help these people, and how exactly can I help them grow and become better people?
He should be fixing and figuring out a way to help their test scores come up instead of talking about them and degrading them in their test scores. I really understand. So, do you guys, as students, do you feel like you have enough say in the changes that are made in the schools, like deciding things in the curriculum or picking out school events, school lunches, or how funds are collected, extracurriculars? Because, like, do you feel like students should have a stronger say in those things because you are experienced in them more?
Yeah, I think so. Like, especially like in schools, like nobody could. You can give like opinions like on school field trips and stuff, but like school when it comes to school lunches, I don't think they're taking nobody's opinion for that. And that could be like students should have a say in that about what they.
Exactly, especially because the school lunch ain't even really exactly most completely edible a good amount of time. Like, for example, the milk cartons they give at the school lunch. Most of the time, those cartons have expired for a day or two when they're actually getting out.
Some of them be chunky like that inside. Like the milk is chunky.
Don't drink it.
I
remember one time one of my friends opened up a strawberry milk carton, and what flowed out wasn't strawberry milk, but just strawberry sludge.
So when y'all see these things, like, what do you do in that moment? Do you go to an administrator, teacher, anybody, or do you just like, wow, this is our school system? Like, you're used to it at this point? Do y'all say anything?
We're used to it at this point, because I mean, people have definitely tried talking to him before, but has anything changed in like the past in the past like 10 years or anything about school lunches?
I was just laughing at my friends and thought it was.
I would say, like, from my perspective, when I see something, I say something. I would consider myself to be a proactive person, but I think part of me has, like, grown to, like, shrug things off and be like, well, nothing's going to change, so I don't know what to do. I know, like, in 10th grade, I served on the school's student government as vice president, and I never, like, felt like my ideas or my opinions were like truly like being heard. I genuinely felt like the advisors, the people who ran student government, would like turn our suggestions down or like micromanage them. And I'm the like kind of person where I believe like if you give youth a platform or you give youth like the opportunity to voice their concerns, then I don't think you should hover over them and be like, well, I'm going to give you this platform or I'm going to give you this opportunity, but, oh, you can't say this and you can't say that. And if you say this, you know, like they kind of like check you on your power, or they like check you on like certain things you say. And I'm like, well, if you're explaining to me how I'm the future and you want me to serve on your student government, then why can't I genuinely tell you how I feel without you trying to water my opinions down?
Yeah, so that's the thing. I'm sorry, go ahead.
And also, speaking of student government at Poly, we barely even hear from our student government. Like, I'm pretty sure the only time this year I actually remember interacting with student government is when they were like coming around to ask people to vote for them for like different positions and stuff. I haven't heard anything about them since.
I agree. Today I found out that our junior and senior prom might be combined because we don't have enough money to fundraise our prom, and it's just like, I feel like similar to like what you just said, our student government, they are not as engaged with the student body as they should be. And I mean, we fought for our current student government. Like last year, a boy like made a comment that he didn't see any melanin on our, within our student government. And that year, like everybody campaigned and a lot of Black and brown students ran for like positions. And we have this diverse student government now, but still voices are not being heard. So it's a lot of work we have to do.
Especially because I was also in student government during my time in high school, so we had to fight a lot for a lot of things we wanted because our graduation was going to be somewhere completely smaller than our class size. And they told us it was because of funding, so we had to figure out a way for us to do it. But the difference between our school and how you guys are experiencing now is that we also had teachers who wanted us to experience those things as well. I feel like now, after the pandemic, really, I just feel like everything in the school system has kind of shifted. Everyone's trying to accustom to the new virtual / like it's kind of hybrid, honestly, because some days you're in school, some days you aren't, some days you're on a video call. So I feel like it's not the same motivation for everyone involved, honestly. So, and like, what do you guys think makes the student government be inactive? Like, why do you feel like they aren't as inclusive as they used to be or as inclusive as they should be?
Because the adults who are running the student government don't look like us. They're powers that be that continuously try to check the power of the students. And once a student gets out of line or once they challenge what's going on in the school, it's like oh no, well, we have this, or oh no, we have this. Like, for instance, I'm on the executive board, for Key Club. And I brought up, because like in Key Club, we do a lot of like leadership and community service and just engage, like we volunteer for different causes, like women's rights and children who were hospitalized because of, illnesses and, you know, underlying conditions. And I brought up to the advisor, I was like, well, Black History Month is coming up. Like, I think we should do this and I think we should do that. And she's like, oh no, like, you know, the thing, that, you know, Black people have struggled with throughout the years is voting. So like, let's do something involving voting. And I'm like, yeah, that's true, but let's do a lot of things. Yeah. But she kind of passes me off, or not passes me off necessarily, but she's like, oh, well, we're doing this one thing, so that should be enough. And it's not enough. Because like, even on the morning announcements during Black History Month, I brought up like, our school isn't doing enough. And she's like, oh, well, we have the morning announcements. And I'm like, well, those 5-minute blurbs of like a Black like figure and stuff, like on the morning announcements, like no one is watching the morning announcements. Like, why do you think that is enough?
Yeah.
And it's not. It really isn't.
Anybody else? Your student government, you say about your student government too, Micheal. So what do you think they could do better at the school? Like, why do you feel like they aren't as inclusive as your school?
I honestly have no clue on why they aren't as inclusive. I mean, in my first year of poly, they were pretty active. I do remember that. I don't know if it was just because of like the change in people who actually are running for the government or who is running them, but I just don't know why they aren't as inclusive anymore.
Yeah, student government good too, or? Forgot, I agree.
My student government, I mean, they have a fair share and say like of power, like it's a fair share.
So they really understood.
Yeah.
Okay. So with everything, like how, because I know school has been different since 2020 before the pandemic and 2020 after the pandemic. So how drastic has the change been for you guys as students before? Like, did you like school before COVID or after?
Before.
Before.
I say before because like before like COVID did it, like I was motivated to go to school and do all that. After like as soon as we got online, I didn't really do. When we were online, I didn't do any work, and then just stayed like that, and it kept going. But then I got like motivated to do it because I realized like like your future depends on how you do it and the degree you get. So like that.
For me, I personally wish we went back to the way it was before because Google Classroom is not the best. I'm just going to say that.
I believe it,
Because while yes, the user interface is nice and all, it doesn't do the best about mentioning like materials and all that. It can be extensive to look through every single thing your teacher has posted to try to find one assignment or something. I personally just found it easier to manage everything when everything was on paper.
I hate writing.
You hate writing?
I also hate writing, but I still prefer everything when.
Yeah, I like paper things, but like when it comes to writing, I don't really like doing that stuff. I feel like it's better if I just take it out.
Oh yeah, fair. I mean, I'm fine with that adding that, but everything else.
Yeah, but like you said, like how it's like hard to find certain assignments and like stuff. Yeah.
And also during the pandemic, that was easily my worst year of school. Partially because one, the sun shift to Zoom meetings, and partially due to the fact that when you're doing things in your house, you're naturally going to get distracted to your house. It's where you have all your stuff. It just isn't a productive workplace.
I don't know, mine is kind of different because I was almost done school. So, I was technically done school, so I liked it for high school, but college-wise, it was completely, like, it's all new because you're so used to going to a class and having to sit and you can ask your teacher questions there in that moment. I don't know, I feel like virtual is kind of hard now because you have to wait for a response and it's everyone talking at one time, or you can't talk until the end of the Zoom because they want to make sure they don't go over their time. So I understand. I liked it before too, but it's kind of iffy with me. So,
but you like graduating online?
No, so I graduated. We had in-person graduation, but our class was split up, so it was like 10 people per graduation. And I didn't even go to my graduation. I had my own graduation here, actually. So, cause my graduation was scheduled the day I moved into college. So, yeah.
Wow. Yeah. I would say the change between like life before COVID and life after COVID, like in terms of school, I would say the change has been like very rough and very tragic. I wish I could get a do-over with 8th grade and the transition to high school. Cause I just believe like going from middle school to high school is such a big shift, and it really matters because it's like when the pandemic started, I was like 13, and when the pandemic ended, I'm like celebrating my 16th birthday, and I'm like, wait a minute, like how did I grow up that fast? And it's just like, I guess when, I don't know, like Alice Walker says that time moves slowly, but passes quickly. So I feel like when I look back, like it passed quickly, but in the moment I was dreading like life. During the pandemic, I actually was very motivated to do my schoolwork. I had that was the highest my GPA has ever been during the pandemic. But socially and mentally, I was drained. I was shutting down. I was not okay. I didn't have the space to express myself. So my schoolwork became my everything. So, yeah.
That's weird.
Yeah.
Everyone said something, right? Everyone said something?
No. Oh. I mean, I would say after, like, the school year coming back from COVID, That was the worst. It was 9th grade, and then my schedule having 10 classes a day.
10? I'm sorry.
10? Can you list those classes off?
Huh?
Wasn't 5 of your 10 music?
Yeah, but it's like 15 a week.
I remember this conversation where,
Yeah, but it still counts, like the classes, even if it's music, it still counts as,
A credit
I
for
get
the
it.
music school,
It's
yeah.
over.
That's still a lot for
yeah. So that was, it was, then coming from COVID.
Yeah, I
It was
must
too
say,
bad.
like,
That's
coming from
yeah.
COVID, trying to get in the swing of things, you haven't even been in high school yet. You got
Right.
10 classes, so I feel like I understand your stress.
So it was just,
I don't
Yeah,
even
still
remember.
struggled.
I don't remember 10th grade.
You have 4?
Yeah, I got 4. It's like 4 this semester and it's 4 out of 6.
Okay,
Oh,
well,
wow.
you have 8 altogether for the year, though.
It was like that during COVID. Like for me, like 9th grade, I had 4 classes for like, maybe like, for a semester, and then I had another 4 the next semester. They weren't really like trying to pile like all 8 of the classes on us at once because they didn't want to stress us out, but I was already stressed.
Yeah.
And then when I came back in 10th grade, like, I don't even remember 10th grade because it was like so much anxiety. We didn't know if we would go back virtual or stay in person.
Mm-hmm.
We had these masks on. I don't recall a lot of conversations I had that year, as well as like the memory of like people's faces and stuff. It was just because like that mask, it was like block. And I'm a visual person, so it's like that really just blocked my whole brain. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so.
Also masks. I hate wearing masks.
Yes.
the breathing.
Cannot take it. And with the glasses, it fogs.
Exactly.
Oh, it was bad.
I don't know. I think, because during my time, like after post-pandemic, we were on campus. So like everyone, it was the same people on campus all the time. So if you had a COVID test, you really didn't have to wear masks. Because we got tested twice a week every week. So there was no like, and if you did get COVID, you have to go and isolate in the separate apartments off campus that they give you. So
Wow. Speaking of health issues that COVID caused, I know a friend who had to get like blue light glasses because she was like looking at the computer screen like for too long and it was just like doing something with her eyes. I got a double stigmatism. So like, it cost so much for my contacts because I had like both of these situations going on at once. But yeah, like COVID caused a lot. And them back problems.
Yeah.
Posture.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's a lot to think about, especially when you're like adjusting. Because you're like, wow, all of this is taking so long on me just to be able to have a future.
Yeah. How long would you say that you were like on the computer for like during COVID, like in terms of like schoolwork or maybe work?
I want to say majority of the day because everything was on computer for me in college. I didn't have any in-person classes. So all of my classes were online and they were from 10 to 4. So in between those classes, I'm still doing work on the computer. These are blue light glasses right now because
I was about to ask that. Yeah.
So I had to start wearing blue light glasses also, but
wow.
Yeah, it wasn't really I want to say during a week average about like 40 hours on my computer, just with homework and classes and everything. So like a work week.
That's intense.
Yeah.
That's really intense.
Yeah. So, but we did have like administration, our advisors who were helping us through at the time too, because they were also adjusting to virtual. So they were trying to help us adjust while they were adjusting. So yeah, it was really good because having people who were there to help guide you is a good thing, especially like people you can connect to or relate to. Because most of our advisors were like us, people of color, or went to HBCU, so they knew how it was to be a student at HBCU. So speaking of administration and advisors, what is your opinion? What is y'all opinion on Black administration speaking up for or on situations for students of color?
At my school, it's a lot like black administration. Yeah, they speak up for all students. They like create a bond with students to the point like it makes them fun to come to work and it makes them excited to come to school and like have someone that they can talk to. Like administration, yeah, and they're mostly black. Like I don't think it's anyone in school.
We had a very supportive vice principal at my school last year. Unfortunately, he went to another school, but he was very supportive. Similar to your black admin at your school, he created a bond and was intentional about his bonds with students. He really like got to know us like on a in school and out of school level, like at a comfortable, like appropriate level. But I feel like because he was outnumbered by so many like so much white admin, it really like, I feel like that causes an issue because sometimes black administrators are afraid to speak out on certain things because similar to the students, when you see something and you say something, either your ideas are considered or your ideas are just swept under the rug. So I feel like a lot of the times that happened with him. I mean, for example, we were supposed to go on a field trip, I don't know if it was like an HBCU tour where we were going to go to multiple HBCUs, but I definitely remember we were supposed to go to like Howard and Morgan State and never happened. And I was very like persistent on why, like when it would be happening. And he told me between me and you, your principal spent the funds elsewhere.
And it's the same principal.
Yes, and this is the same principal we talked about earlier. So there were signs that he was not for us. And it was very upsetting because I really wanted to tour some HBCUs that summer. Yeah. Well, that school year. It was towards the summer break. But yeah, it was ridiculous. I did not like it.
Where you spend the funds on?
I don't even know. I don't know to this day. I guess they can't like disclose that information because that's like confidential. But I do know that like I learned today that like principals, one of their like main roles is to do budget work and like really like calculate and place carefully where funds are supposed to go. And he did the wrong thing.
At this point, your school should just hire like a financial officer or something to make sure all the funds go where they need to go.
Yeah, that's a great idea. Definitely.
Especially since the funds are for the students. Like that goes back to us saying like how you guys should have more say in things in the school system, because if it's funds for your events, your field trips, I feel like y'all should have to say where exactly all the funds go or what the funds should be used for. And to an extent, at least.
Yeah. And I would say like recently I've really been like, I keep thinking about this Maya Angelou poem that I was introduced to called Alone. And in the poem, there's this line that's like, but nobody can make it out here alone.
Yeah.
And it's just like very true because it's like, this is a collective effort. Like you said, we should be able to voice our opinions on these things. And then our black admin also needs to back us up and not like run away from what needs to be dealt with. But there's like so many different like lenses you can look at this situation through and so many different problems that just need to be talked about.
Yeah.
It needs to be said. Conversations definitely need to be held. Yeah.
How do you guys feel about like the black administration speaking up more or on situations for the black students of color?
Honestly, at Poly, we really haven't had any situations sort of like that, so I
but in general, like,
right? I mean, I think there's like a black counselor named Mr. Ford. He really watches out for the students, the black students, and checks their grades, checks in with them. So he does a good job doing that, and just make sure we like if you're lingering in the halls, like you will lie down on that. So yeah, so
do you feel like it should be more administration, like more administration of color for students of color in your schools, or do you feel like it's enough as is?
Or at Pikesville, definitely. I mean, cause when you count like the staff and the faculty, like honestly, there's a sprinkle of us. I would say there's probably over 50 staff members and faculty, and there's probably like a good 15 to 25 of like us, or so like we're definitely outnumbered. I don't have like the exact like stats on that, but I've seen like pictures and stuff of like what our staff looks like, and I barely see us. And it's an issue. And I mean, like another problem is like Black administrators, like I was mentioning earlier, like sweeping things under the rug. A lot of Black administrators are passive. Instead of voicing their concerns instead of like seeking out like solutions or like collective effort to like solve issues, they like chatter amongst their counterparts, but don't ever challenge the problem. And by the problem, I mean the white administrators who are causing these, not disruptions, but are causing these tragedies.
So you feel like they should speak up more on situations with other administrators, not just for students, but like when they notice things with administration or other teachers, they don't say enough.
Yeah, definitely. They don't say enough. And I think that this is like, as a student, you look up to your teachers. As a student, well, we're trained, we're conditioned to like look up to the authority figure, the adult. So it's like when you're looking for help and looking for responses from the people who are in these positions and they don't have the answers for you and they're sweeping things under the rug and they're being passive about these obstacles that everybody is going through, but nobody wants to say anything. It teaches us that our voices don't matter. And they do. And it sort of like kind of makes like, I guess, ingrains this belief of like, if the adult is in a position of power and they're not voicing their concern, then why should I?
Right.
Why should I even try? And it's not a good mindset. It's not a good mindset.
Especially when you got like extra school. You need to see other people or someone higher up doing and fighting for your rights or what you believe in general, because if they won't, why should you go to the same people they are going to complain about stuff you feel is wrong when they won't even help you with it? So I understand. And then that leads into like equity work. So like with the non-Black administration teachers, how do you feel, like what are your opinions on equity work being used in schools? Because it is mostly done by white administrators or teachers in the school years, because they have this quote unquote savior complex where they feel like they have to do something just so they can say, oh, I helped this student because they were struggling. So how does that make y'all feel? Because I know you experienced it, and to some extent. Don't speak a lot.
I mean, I haven't had to deal with it much in high school, I'll be completely honest. I can't even really recall any time I really had to deal with that in high school.
Yeah, me either.
Really? Yeah.
Well, I would say in my school, there are some administrators, some white administrators, or just like staff in general who, you know, like they're trying, but the trying is also contributing to the downfall of like fighting for equality and fighting for justice and so forth. Like, I mean, for example, I had like a counselor like tell me like, oh, when I became a Ben Carson scholar, they told me like, oh, if it wasn't for me, you know, you wouldn't have won that scholarship. And I'm like, excuse me? Like, I put this hard work in and, you know, you're attributing your help you're attributing my success to your help. And I think that goes along with like equity work. Like, people will use their privilege in a inauthentic or manipulative way. And I really believe that like sincerity should be a pillar that is considered when you are advocating for the disadvantaged. Yeah, and I believe that this white like saviorism breeds an unhealthy, like I have all the answers or my way is the best way mentality. And I believe that we marginalized Black people deserve the space to be heard, not the other way around. If you're giving me the opportunity or the platform to be heard, I don't want you to like take away from my opportunity to be heard by saying like, oh no, well, I'm doing this, or oh no, we're doing that. And I mean, going back to what I was saying about like Black History Month and the teacher telling me, oh, like, well, the morning announcements, we had that. She was basically saying like, oh, that's enough.
Yeah.
And that is white saviorism. Like, oh, like, you're raising this concern, but, oh, we have a solution for that. But it's like, no, it's not, it doesn't feel authentic.
It's just because she thinks that it's enough, she's gonna leave it at that, even though students are telling her, or you're voicing that it's not enough at all.
Yeah, because I had like a sour meeting with Principal Oswald, in 10th grade, and a week later, well, it was like 3 weeks later, and he had the nerve to pull me out of class and ask me if I could read something on the morning announcements pertaining to like slavery or like Black History Month, and he had like a script written up and everything, and I was like, no. And he was like, what? He was like, wait, you can't read this? And I was like, no. Like, why would you have me go on the morning announcements and fake and pretend like everything's okay here? Or, oh, your gesture, you showing me this script of something you typed up that you got a Black woman's, and then he also got like a Black teacher's okay on this script that he typed up. So that's another form of white saviorism, like saying, oh, well, because I have their Black validation, we can go through with this plan. And it's like, no, we actually can't, because we had this meeting in previous weeks, and it was not, the energy that I was met with was not like I'm here to help you and I'm going to be authentic about helping you. It was like he pushed me to the side, he brushed me off, he deflected in that conversation and so forth. So yeah, we should listen to the people who are being oppressed, not those who have the history of doing the oppressing.
So when you say we should listen to the people, like, how do you guys see yourself as a part of the change needed in your school system? Like, in the whole school system, not just your school, but the entire school system in general. How do y'all see yourself making a change, or as a part of the change? Look where we are. We're on a podcast as youth advocates talking about this. So how does that make y'all feel, like, to be able to have a voice, be advocates for the youth who don't have a voice or don't know how to voice their opinions? How does that make y'all feel to speak up for them?
Slightly nervous.
Nervous? Why?
Just not used to having a bunch of people view something that
But you don't know, because, like, there might be a lot of people or a lot of other kids who feel the same way y'all feel. And they are scared to speak up about it because they feel like even if they do, like how y'all been saying today on this podcast, like, even if I do speak up, what's going to happen? But we have, like, there are options out there. So there are ways to change things. So that's it. So
I think lately I've just been driven by the mission instead of the consequences of, just like recently and stuff, like, I'm just like, I always reflect and I'm happy about like being here at B.Y.O. because I just, for years and years, I mean, and it's so sad because I was in a room today and a teacher was actually crying and about this situation because she was one of the names that he aired out on the audio recording, and she was crying like in tears, and she was saying how she hasn't slept, she hasn't been eating, and she was saying that when people asked her if she's okay, she doesn't have anything to say anymore. And she said that it's because people are asking me to talk now, but I've been talking for years and no one heard me. And I feel like for years and years, when you are silenced, when people aren't hearing you, when people are like, oh, like, you know, like people will tell me like, oh, you're inspirational. Oh, you're great. And I'm like, I don't need to hear compliments. I need justice for Black people, and I need it now. I need conversations and I need action, not talking.
Right.
So when I think about myself, like on a county level or like, you know, taking advantage of like opportunities where I can, you know, be heard and seen, those things are very, very important for me because I have a lot to say, and I have a lot to say pertaining to us and pertaining to my experiences and uplifting other people's experiences. And I think organizations as such, the one we work at, the one we serve, they're so important. They're very much important. And I just don't think the programs and organizations in Baltimore County can amount to the work we're doing in the inner city. Because I think a lot of the organizations there just put up there to make the schools or the system look good. But no one is doing like the real work. Or there are some people who are incredibly hardworking and doing their best. But it's a matter of like, I mean, we're like 4.5, 5 months away from the end of the school year, and there are so many like stories and people who are coming forward. This is going to take a while. This is going to be cycles and sessions of healing. So right now, I would say my main priority is the healing, the mental health, and just the overall just meeting people where they are and giving them the opportunity to be heard. So I'm writing that community letter tonight and using social media to uplift my voice and other people's voices. And I talked with the superintendent, and we are going to get our day of healing, or our weeks of healing.
Weeks.
Yeah.
Like for the weeks.
Yeah.
Shoot, you can do all night.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, so I feel like this is a good episode. We all had some great things to say. We want to thank everybody who is out there listening or watching, tuning in on whatever they have. We want to thank you to our community for believing, and we will talk to you guys on the next B.Y.O.Logues. Make sure you guys share and subscribe.